Welcome to another edition of Midweek Moment. My name is Minister Zanetta Dabney, and I will be hosting our Midweek Moments for the month of June. Listen, June is our education month, and every single June, we approach topics that are critical to both spiritual and natural education and elevation. In the past year, we have covered financial foundations, and now this month, we will be tackling our wealth building series. You heard it first from here. Particularly, we will be focused on all things real estate. Real estate is a hot topic in the market right now as we are in the thick of the pandemic and experiencing the great resignation. People are seeking purpose, placement, and prosperity. Purpose in their lives. What am I called to do? What am I passionate about? Placement in their lives. Where should I exercise that purpose? And prosperity. How do I live out my purpose while still making financial gains? People are seeking purpose, placement, and prosperity. Well, I have good news for you. You are definitely in for a treat because during this month, hopefully you will be able to tap into one of those three things, if not all of them, as we talk about and navigate through real estate. To kick off our series this week, I am so excited to be talking to a knowledgeable veteran, one that is not at all unfamiliar with the real estate business and no stranger to the South Suburban Missionary Baptist Church family. Katrina Robinson is a loan partner at Summit Funding Incorporated, and Katrina has been in and out of the industry for 22 years. I am so excited to have her on the platform for the first time, but again, she is definitely known across our South Suburban family. So we welcome on today Katrina Robinson. Hey, Trina.
Hey, how are you, Minister Daddy?
Yes, we're super excited to have you here. And I am going to tell the people right now, I affectionately call you Trina. Okay, because
Yes.
your name is Katrina. I affectionately call you Trina. Trina has been a part of South Suburban. Although she's no longer a member of the ministry, she has definitely been with South Suburban for many years. She goes way back, even before I was born.
I was one. I was 1 years old, so 44 years. 44 years.
That is insane to think about that. Yes, and her mother, the late Sister Janet Robinson, was our longtime musician at South Suburban. She taught me everything I know about music. Come on, y'all.
I know, right?
The TLC, right? That's
what you can't sing. You gonna sing and sing, that's it. You're not gonna sing it.
So I am so happy to have Katrina. Katrina is not only someone that is family to us, she is a beautiful singer, but she also is about her business and has always been about her business. I remember years ago when I was younger, she would be the person that would come up at church during Blessed Hour and say, I'm going to help people pay their bills. And I was like, what is she doing? And then I understood what she was doing. She was a real estate agent, right? Yes. And she was literally out here making money through real estate. So we are going to talk about that with Katrina today. So again, thank you so much for being on the platform. So before we dive in, Katrina, let's just share a little bit about your background. Give me some information as to how you got started and why exactly did you choose real estate?
Sure, absolutely. So in most careers, unless you are fortunate enough to go to college, get your degree, and jump right into your career, you kind of find your way by navigating different positions, different places. And so I actually started off as now they're executive administrative assistant. I was the secretary. Okay, let's just say that. I was the secretary for a real estate attorney. That's how I actually got started. And through working with him, I learned a lot about the back end of reading contracts and what all goes into a real estate transaction from a seller perspective, because you have attorneys that handle both the buyer and the seller side. Well, I was mostly on the seller side, and I began to build relationships with different loan officers who worked at different mortgage companies, and understood then what they did in making home ownership possible. And this was back in 1999, 2000, and it was definitely more difficult back then for, especially to me, the lack of knowledge in our communities for people to qualify for homes because they just really did not know what they needed to do, what it all entails in qualifying for the purchase of the home, why it's important to get yourself into a position to purchase opposed to renting. And so I thought it was very rewarding to be able to help people live that American dream by becoming a homeowner. And so I built these relationships with different loan and different agents and understood that that is what I wanted to do. So I flipped from the attorney side, and then I ended up being a loan officer assistant to a loan officer. And that's how I got in the business and just kind of worked my way up through different mortgage companies. I eventually did become licensed in 2007. And yeah, and so that is how I got in the business. And that's the reason why it was so satisfying and gratifying for me, because I've always been kind of a giver from my heart. And my personality is it makes me happy to make other people happy. And when you see people who get those keys for the first time, or people who are able to close on different transactions and become a real estate investor and can build generational wealth through real estate, it is so gratifying just to know that you're helping somebody. You go to work every day and you help somebody get to the next level in life. And so that's the reason why I love it. That's how I realized it. And that's how I got into business.
I love that. I'm so happy you shared that story, because what I've come to understand, especially within the context of real estate, that it truly is about a community, right? It's a community effort. Real estate is one that helps to build and also grow the community. And people don't think about generational wealth in that context, that real estate is really one of the key gateways to build generational wealth and to also help others get there. And you being a giver, I definitely can attest to that. It definitely is in you to be able to push people forward and push people to really achieve their dreams and their aspirations. And real estate is one of those ways to do that. So when we think about this idea about, our communities and learning about real estate and that interconnectedness of wealth building and ownership, how would you say real estate ownership acts as a conduit or a gateway for wealth building? We hear this a lot of times. People say, well, if you want to build wealth, you need to go buy. But in essence, how does that actually accrue wealth? What happens with that?
Absolutely. So I'll start with the generational piece. So it is important um, for you to understand that when you purchase a home and you are able to maintain the mortgage payments for 15, 10, 15, 30-year terms, or 20, 30-year terms, that after that payment is over and done, you now own a piece of real estate. And that can be passed down from generation to generation to generation. Well, how do those generations benefit? Well, number one, they receive a property that they do not have a mortgage payment on. So they only have to worry about insurance. You don't have to worry about taxes. If I don't have a mortgage payment, what I say is don't spend the mortgage payment. What you do is mortgage payment would be you invest that. You put it into stocks, you put it into a savings account, you put it into a CD, you put it into an IRA. This way, you're still used to spending. You're not frivolously throwing your paycheck away. You are beginning to build an income after you retire, because you can pull down as an annuity payment or however you choose to, but you're beginning to build your savings account for yourself, for your grandchildren, and on and on and on. Not only that, but then once you own this piece of real estate, the real estate market goes up and down. Right now, it's a seller's market. And what that means is that individuals are paying 50, 60, 70, even up to $100,000 over what your asking price is for your home. So if you're in a position, let's just say Big Mama had a house for all of her kids and all of the grandkids. So now you get this 7-bedroom house. It's just you and your husband and 2 children. You don't need this huge home, and you're in a position now where you want to sell. How you become wealthy off of Big Mama's property is you sell it, you take that money, you go and pay cash for your new home. So once again, you don't have a mortgage payment. And then whatever you have over left, you put that in your children's college funds. So now you don't have to worry about starting a savings account or finding extra money that you may need to supplement from student loans like that for your college funds. So that's how you begin to build wealth from a single ownership perspective, from generation to generation to generation, because we know, Minister Dabney, your house has been in my life 44 years. Okay. It has been the same house where we spent the night and had
Yes.
chicken dinners and birthday parties and everything else. And so that is a perfect example of what I mean by passing on from generation to generation. Now, from an investment perspective, how you build wealth is you find income generating properties. And what that means is you do that by two ways. You do one by either purchasing a property and holding it to your portfolio. What that means is that you use it as income driven property, which is basically a rental, whether it's a single family home or whether it's a multi unit property. What you do is it's very important for you to find a positive income property. And that depends on the community. It depends on the market rates at that time, as far as how much the properties are going for. And it also depends on repairs that need to be done. It is important that you make sure that you screen your tenants when you are holding portfolio properties, because it costs more for you to take someone that you want to take a chance on that does not have a proven history, whether that's a proven good credit history or a work history, because then your turnover is back to back. Now, once they leave, you have repairs most of the time. So now you're pulling out of the income that property is generating. The other way that you can build wealth from an investment perspective is by doing what we call flips. So flips are, we go out and we find a distressed property, and we have to make an initial investment into that property. So you purchase the property for lower than what the market value is, but you also have to take into consideration what your after appraised value is going to be. It's called APV. And your after appraised value is, I buy a home for 50,000, I put $100,000 into it. After I'm done with it, structurally and cosmetically, will that home be worth more than 150,000, which is your initial investment? If it is, usually if you are able to yield 20% or more in a profit from your after appraised value, then you've won. So basically, if I buy a home that's 50,000, I put 100,000 in it, my initial investment is 150. After it's appraised, if it's worth more than 180, I've won. Then what I do is I take, if you had to get a loan for that 150, pay that loan off, because we don't want to hold the money and have to pay interest back to these banks or these hard money lenders. And then you take that 30,000 and you reinvest in your next flip until you get to a point where you no longer have to go to the banks. You can do everything cash deal. Now you're not worrying about additional closing costs on your loans, and you're not worried about interest that you're paying on those loans that you have while you're flipping the home. And that basically means while you are doing all the repairs, and then the money that you put into it for staging after it's done, and then the realtor fees that you have to pay, or the broker fees that you have to pay to your real estate agent to relist it and get it sold and off your portfolio.
Wow, that is incredible. I was just listening to you and I was like, this is so much information that
It
you just hit
is.
us with. And so I want to kind of dial back to just kind of give some bullets, right? So the first thing you mentioned when you talked about this idea of wealth generation, you're suggesting that The reason why real estate is one of the best ways to do it is because it can be passed down, right? It's tangible property, or it's tangible assets that literally can be physically passed down to the next generation. I love that you gave the example of my mom's house. I was just talking to her the other day. I was like, you've had everybody and their mother to live here in
Yes.
some way, in some capacity, at some point in their life. Someone has stayed at this home, right? And so because we've kept it in the family, even after she's gone, after I'm gone, to the next person, it can continue to live and generate money for whomever is here, or it can just continue to be property that's within the family, as an asset. Then
Yeah, and that's the that I do believe is so important, is for understanding the concept behind um, family fortune,
Mhm.
and making sure that our legacy is left for generation to generation to generation. I think that it is so important, just as it is with 60 and 70 and 50-year marriages and what that looks like. I think as our children and our grandchildren come up, the importance of understanding the hard work that Big Mama and Pawpaw put in to make these mortgage payments, to pay this mortgage off, and to maintain this home, not only for themselves and their children, but for the grandchildren and the great grandchildren. I think that that begins to establish a strong foundation in our homes of the importance of making sure that when we make a commitment to something, we stand by that commitment, and the importance of what standing by that commitment looks like for our children to come up. And so it's
Absolutely.
just not from a financial perspective, but you are also instilling those morals and values in the younger generation of the importance of, because when you sign that contract, you are committing to this term of this loan. You're committing to the community that you're going to keep up the home. You're going to
Mhm.
make sure that the landscaping and the curb appeal is good. These are commitments that you make when you sign your name on that dotted line. And I think that that begin, and it also shows strength in money management and
Yes.
credit worthiness. And I think that that's something that is so important that we need to teach our children as a young age, so they are not claiming bankruptcy after they graduate from college before they even have a job. A lot of college students, as soon as they turn 18 or 19 years old, first year, they're getting 10, 20, 30 credit card offers in
Mhm.
the mail immediately. And if they don't know the importance of credit worthiness and money management, they will sign up for these credit cards. Now the parents have to be on the hook for them, or they get themselves into all of this debt and they don't even have a job yet. And
Yeah.
so I think that this is an example, one way that we, Generation X can start to teach the younger generation to come up, and this is one way that we can show them how to do that.
I love that you said that. And Trina, you are all in our business from last year. We had a whole segment around financial foundations, and we talked about credit care and how
Yes,
critical it is to care for your credit. We're not always taught these things, right? We came up in generations where living paycheck to paycheck was the
yes.
standard. As long as you were meeting enough to make your bills, then it was all
Paycheck
good.
to Monday. We didn't even
Come
make
on,
it to
paycheck.
Monday. We got paid on Friday. By Monday,
It
it
was
was
gone.
over with. We had to get $20 to the next paycheck.
That's it, right? And it's so interesting when you think about it. It's just due to a lack of knowledge, right? We did
Yes.
not have the information that is so now plentiful to us. This is Minister Zanetta just chiming in here. I hope that you all have enjoyed our part one of the wealth building series, All Things Real Estate, featuring Katrina Robinson. Next week, part two with Katrina Robinson will be premiering. Listen, I hope that you are gaining as much knowledge as I did during my interview with Katrina. She is so amazing, and her spirit and her energy and just her desire to make sure that our marginalized communities understand and have the tools to equip them to understand all things real estate was just phenomenal to me. So join us next week for part two with Katrina Robinson. Thank you so much for tuning in to our midweek moment. Until then, take care.